Hello and welcome to the Leeds View podcast. We do these twice a week on a Tuesday and on a Thursday, as well as daily Leeds United news. We are part of the Sports Social Network, and you can get all of our podcasts and daily news across YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and all other podcast networks. If that sounds like the kind of thing that you're interested in, give us a follow, give us a channel rating, a like, and feel free to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Right, let's crack on and start tonight. It's Transfer Talk podcast, and guess what? There's some transfers to talk about, not just hypotheticals, as was the word of the day in Daniel Farke's press conference today. Delighted to be joined by Paul Brooker, as per usual, for the podcast, and Andrea Russo managed to survive the last time, and he's come back again to have a chat with us about this. And the fact that there is some Italian flavour to this as well would be nice. We'll check in with the lads first, see how they're getting on, and then we'll get into the news. Paul, how are you, mate? How's things?
Amazing. Could not be better. I'm incredible. Just brilliant. What a day. The rumours broke early this morning, and then here we are. It's done, finished, dusted. There's photographs of him in tops and all sorts of stuff. I messaged you saying I really want every single transfer just to happen like this now. From just we're interested, bang, done. So and again, listen, I'm going to give him a bit of credit from the start, because he turned us down right at the very, very last minute because he was sort of brought on by the bright lights, etc. And it takes a big man to admit that he was wrong, and I think that's what he's doing. So fair play to him. But no, I'm good. I'm just waiting for the next one now. Long may it continue.
Yeah, we've seen it in the Leeds United shirt already. Somebody put a thing on my post on Instagram earlier on and went, "That's AI FSX." So I'm not believing till I see him in a Leeds United scarf. Like, dude, he's done an interview. he's literally in a jersey. Like, come on, keep up. Yeah, so we got a bit of detail on Buonanotte, and some interesting comments made by Daniel Farke in his press conference today. Some very clever questions from the journalists that were asked today that circumnavigated Daniel Farke's desire to not answer questions on transfers, but he has managed to get a couple of them. Congratulations to Baron Cross for asking the sneakiest hypothetical question of all sneaky hypothetical questions during the press conference. Also, Andrea is with us tonight. Andrea, how are you doing, mate? How are things? Thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Jer. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. Good to see Paul after a long time too. I'm good. A bit knackered because we recorded and then published the podcast with Loki today. So I've been stuck on this chair basically since 2:30, So then I'm ready for Buonanotte, basically for a good night in Italian, like the Easter name. But yeah, overall good. I'm like Paul, I'm buzzing for the signing, honestly, because I think it's a very adaptable, very versatile one. Works in both formations, so absolutely smart. And like you said, it's good that finally we could get this over the line, because it's a player that we had been chasing in the summer. We had almost taken, we had almost signed. And I remember waking up the next morning when he was all done and dusted and seeing Buonanotte to Chelsea, and it was a big surprise. But yeah, it wasn't a good move for him, because all the competition at Chelsea these days, all the young players, they want to get to the top very quickly, but sometimes you need to do some mid steps, to get there. See the example of Strasbourg, Chelsea now send their young players there to develop, and then maybe even the managers now are doing that route, to London. But yeah, very, very happy for the signing, I think, and I'm really surprised too by the smoothness, like Carlos Sainz will say, a smooth operation, it was, and the silence and the radio silence, We woke up this morning, Romano, Buonanotte, close to Leeds, and this afternoon already done and dusted, sealed, deal made, pictures and all that. So very, very good way to operate.
The speed at which the entire thing came together today, I had recorded the news and was literally just starting to edit it. I usually get a couple of texts from Paul in and around that time of the morning anyway, so I had a little glance at my phone, as I tend to when Paul does text me, and I saw, hang on a second, what's this? Then I looked at Twitter and saw Romano's post, and I was right back to recording we go, get this piece stuck back in. And even at that point I'd said, we haven't got the full here we go just yet. By the time I'd edited that one and hit post on YouTube, it was done, finalized, having his medical, and then within half an hour he was in a Leeds United shirt. So incredibly rapid. He was linked with Leeds right at the very start of January as an option for Leeds that they did want to explore should the contract or the loan move to Chelsea get terminated, which apparently has been agreed on by all the sides. Daniel Farke made an interesting comment today, Paul, about it, where basically, again, in the hypothetical question that Baron Cross asked, which was, hypothetically, if a player has agreed to join your club and then at the last minute decides to go to another club, does that change how you approach maybe moving for that player again in the future? And Daniel Farke kind of smirked and said, well, yes, but don't believe everything you read, despite the fact that Robbie Evans did confirm that Leeds had a plane on the ground for Buonanotte. But he did say that we're happy to have players who have interest from other clubs, which he had, and we're happy to have them interested in coming to us, which he is. He said it's different between an 18-year-old player coming on loan who maybe is influenced by other people as a young person, and a 29-year-old coming in on a permanent. He might hold more of a grudge towards that one than the 18-year-old, but he's very happy to have him in the door. It's a good signing for Leeds. It, as Andrea has just alluded to, it ticks that box of what they were missing in the summer window. So essentially, he's got one of the last two that he wanted in the summer done and dusted right now. Has him till the end of the season. Hasn't worked out particularly well for him at Chelsea, but he does have 2 Champions League starts under his belt now. He has Europa League experience behind him in the past as well. And he has a couple of cup games under his belt this year. 1 Premier League start in total this year for him. It was a crazy move. Never made sense, but he's ended up where he wants to be. And I'll go through the quotes of the player, or he said in a couple of minutes' time. But your initial thoughts on it, Paul?
5 months too late, but not in a negative way. He should have come to us in the summer. In my humble opinion, I think he was extremely badly advised by whoever is advising him. I think it was more to do with the bright lights and Champions League opportunities, money for the agent at the same time as well, than actually building up his himself and getting used to playing and getting minutes under his belt, because it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not playing minutes, then you're not going to be able to sustain that at any given point, and you need to be playing on a regular basis. In our squad, regardless of what other people might think, regardless of how they might feel about him, and the fact that he turned us down in the summer at the very, very last minute, he instantly improves our squad. That's not even up for discussion. He instantly improves our squad. He instantly improves our options. It means that if we play a 4-3-3 now, that we've got an option. He could go on the left-hand side, he can go on the right-hand side, or he can play through the middle. There's, in the 3-5-2, he fits into the 3-5-2 formation. If they're wanting a bit more progressiveness and wants to take Stack out of the equation, put him into there. That just, he just helps elevate the squad a little bit more than what we've currently got, which, isn't bad. We're sitting quite well in the Premier League at the moment, but also as well, I think, somebody might have been in the ground at the game against Chelsea and might have just seen the way that the fans were and the way that it all played out, the type of football that we were playing, and it might just have really appealed to him at the same time as well. I said before that it takes a big man to admit that he was wrong in terms of coming in. He didn't have to come here. He probably could have had his pick of going absolutely anywhere. I got that really on one of the video when I put my announcement video up about it. There was a guy that messaged on one of my videos going, Brighton pulled the plug, not the player, and Brighton will be talking to USG and Hearts before agreeing to Leeds. Which wasn't the case at all. Which wasn't the case at all.
Because of the common ownership, yeah. Because of the ownership. But this is the way that I view what's probably happened here. I think this has been sorted out for a little while. I genuinely think this has been sorted out probably before January, and
this hasn't just happened overnight. Like this, there's no way.
We are not that efficient. We are not that quick. Absolutely not. So, I think this has been.
Daniel Farke did say he would announce something after Derby. Like he was very keen on that time frame, and here we are.
And he also said as well he would not let one go without another one coming in. Jack Harrison leaving, him coming in, that instantly elevates options off of the bench or even starting options at the same time as well. So there's that side of it. And I also think, I should say, sorry, I do think that the club are quite severely irked with regards to the amount of leaking that went on in the summer and news that kept coming out with regards to potential players and potential people that we might be looking at. There's all of that we work in silence kind of stuff, which you can to a certain degree, but news will always get out of there because people will pay money for information. This is just a little bit of that. Relax, everybody. We know what we're doing. And I've said it. I said it to you, and I said it in another video. I felt like something in my water was telling me that this could be a very, very dry January. I hold my hands up now. That's a perfect start to January. Absolutely perfect start to January for me.
Yeah, well, it's a shot glass right now rather than a pint. We'll see if we can get a few more added to it. Andrea, it's an interesting one. The question of where does he fit is the obvious one. Daniel Farke was asked today. He was just, and the question was really good as well. He said, what type of players are you looking for? Kind of essentially, rather than necessarily Buonanotte. And he made a very interesting comment where he said, I'll get the exact wording of this now. We've played more defensive-minded players in this role, like Anton Stack, but it's nice to have a specialist there, which would suggest he's looking at Buonanotte as a central attacking midfielder, not a wide option.
Yeah, it looks like that, But like I said at the start of the podcast, honestly, it's refreshing to see that we are adding a versatile player because he's adaptable. Even in that position, I think he's good because he's a player that is more all-around compared, for example, to a similar body type like Brendan Aronson, because they have similarities, but they have also some key differences. Buonanotte is more involved, has been more involved, especially at Brighton, even in the build-up in his own half compared to Brendan Aronson. But honestly, I hope that doesn't mean to see Anton Stack less in that position, in the number 8, because I think he's also key to our balance, because we have the number 6, the one in front of the defense, the playmaker Ampadu. And now we have, I would expect him to say like Grujev probably, because Grujev is a mix now. When you see him play, as a mix between Stack, in a certain sense, his capability to dictate the play, and Ampadu, but he has some key differences between the two of them. Stack is one that reads the game very well. When he has the space to progress, he progresses with the ball, similar to what Rice does at Arsenal, for example.
Yeah.
But Buonanotte, in that sense, can play in that role in a different role. However, because it doesn't give you the physicality or the defensive presence that Stack guarantees you in that sense. But to get back to your question, I see him honestly as a second striker. Honestly, not in the specific sense of a second striker, but in a role similar to what Aronson is currently covering. The one with the free role, the playmaker, the attacking playmaker, the final third playmaker behind the Calvert-Lewin with the freedom of movement behind him. But even in a 4-3-3, for example, a different formation, of course, he can start on the right, like Aronson started at the start, for example, of the season. But he can also move inside, with the freedom of movement. So it's very good to see him, capable of ticking some boxes in different formations. It's a very, very smart signing, honestly. And another thing, you mentioned the Champions League, the Europa League. He also has 2 caps for Argentina.
Yeah.
And he also was on the bench last time in autumn last season when he was at Leicester. So he's a talented player for sure. And Scaloni saw that too, when he called him up. And he'd want, if he keeps playing, if he gets minutes, to try to make his case for even making the squad, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the left foot part of it is a huge part as well. The fact Daniel Farke did want that balance. He's got Noah Okafor on one side. And you could actually see him, Andrea, playing that 3-4-3 system with Okafor and him in behind either DCL Lucas match as well. So he does add an awful lot more flexibility. And again, it's another option for Daniel Farke, but it increases the unpredictability of what his potential lineups would be coming into games.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think it will give you also some headaches, because in the end, I think we were talking about this with Lucky today, actually, because I think this signing will also mean the decrease, I think, of some minutes for example, Willignonto, because he can cover some positions, for example, on the wing on a 4-3-3. The second striker, of course, I call it second striker, but it's like a hybrid position, the one behind DCL when Aronson is playing there, for example. The real second striker is probably Okafor or Willignonto, in that sense. And even Tanaka, because he mentioned Stack, but even Tanaka is playing less minutes, in the last couple of games, not couple of games, but even more. He's seen his minute decrease compared to the start. He's seen like as an impact sub, like it was against Liverpool or in that game. So He's versatile, but his signing will surely bring competition and some headaches to Falke, because now he has some decisions to make. Like Paul pointed out, one out, Harrison, one in, Buonanotte. But yeah, I was seeing some comments also today about the fact of Willy Gnonto. I don't think he will leave, because I think it's very useful to, like Buonanotte, to two different formations. But again, it will be there will be some tough competitions now in those positions, because even Dan James will return, and if you're switching to a back four with the wingers, even Dan James, when he will return, we know that Falke holds him in very high regard.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The comments from the player himself, he sat down with LUTV today as well. He's got 72 Premier League appearances under his belt, which is again, for a man of his age, not a mean feat at all. He said, "I'm very happy to be here. I really wanted to come to Leeds instead of anywhere else. This was the right time for me to come to Leeds. I played with Brighton a few seasons ago, and I said to my family, to my teammates, Leeds is one of the best teams in the Premier League for sure. First, I want to help Leeds. I need to do a good job here. And then, of course, I have the chance to go to the World Cup. Obviously, I want to go. I like to play on the line, score goals and get assists. I like to be between the lines and, of course, score. And I want to show the fans my quality and how I can help the team in the Premier League. I'm ready to play, and I hope Saturday we can win." He was asked afterwards then what he's expecting from his first appearance at Elland Road. He said, "I can't wait for that moment." So he is finally here. Again, we take the bad advice, young player, things like that happen, and he's here. So we'll see how he gets on, and he is available for the game at the weekend. So fingers crossed we'll get some look at him over the course of the weekend. The other ones, we'll kind of go one in, one out, one in, one out, because there's no point talking about an attacker coming in without talking about an attacker going out. I'm not going to waste the opportunity of having Andrea on the podcast to not talk about a player going to an Italian side, and it's Jack Harrison. So earlier this week, we got the news that a loan has been agreed between Leeds United and Fiorentina in Serie A for Jack Harrison to go there, but it hasn't gone through yet. It hasn't been finalised. It's dragging out a little bit. And there's question marks then about, well, what is actually going on in this situation. There's some interesting wording. And again, I'm reading between the lines, so this might not necessarily be the case, but there's a report from one media outlet in Italy that Leeds will have an obligation to Fiorentina will have an obligation to buy the player at the end of this season. What's also interesting on it as well is one of the wordings that came out this week was Fiorentina are negotiating a wage package with Jack Harrison now, which obviously you don't need to negotiate a wage package if he's going on loan and staying on loan and then coming back to Leeds at the end of the season. Jack's also sold his house in Leeds. So there's a lot of bits and pieces there that maybe suggest this could be a loan with an obligation, which would be fantastic for all of us included. And Jack definitely needs a fresh start for himself as well. Andrea, from an Italian perspective, what have you heard about this move on your side of Europe?
I've been absolutely bombarded by some friends who support Fiorentina, to be fair. So they were they were a little bit surprised by my comments. They were expecting like a top player, but I said to them, "You're not getting a 1v1 dribbler. You're getting a player. The only way I see him playing well for you, actually, because they're playing a 4-3 now, but they have Solomon now on the left. They have Gudmundsson, not Gabi, of course, Albert Gudmundsson, a second striker that plays also on the wing, but they're playing with Parisi, a wing back, as the right winger, because they have no one else there. So I think he will play as a right winger, going back inside on his left foot, and he may play well. I wish him well, honestly, to be fair. He hasn't worked out for Leeds, I think, even at Everton, because the best football he's played, it was under Bielsa, because Bielsa knew even with the fitness, he knew how to manage him. After Bielsa went away, of course, we had that moment at Brentford, the season when he was sacked, but it was never the same for me. And in these formations, it's difficult to find a space for him. We've seen him even playing basically as a wing back, at Derby. So Fiorentina, because they were playing also with a back three at times this season, might even play him as a wing back, to be fair, because I think the position for the future for him is a wing back. But we cannot afford to be the team to be the ones giving him that experiment, that time, to adapt to that position, But from what I've read, I tried to dig some info, on that. There are two camps in Italy, basically. The Di Marzio, Romano and Moretto one was talking about an option to buy, and it's around between 10 million. We're talking about euros, of course, not pounds. Between 10 millions and 12 millions, basically. So you do the maths about the change between the pounds and
10 million euros, about 8 million pounds, 8.4 million pounds.
7, 8, I think, yeah, around that number. And the other camp, the journalists of Sport Italia, like Longari, like Pedula, they are talking about an obligation to buy between 15 and 17 million euros, which I really think is out of range. Honestly, it's not his real value. I think
14 million pounds. So yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. It's his real value, I think, realistically, because now the market is really inflated. We've seen players who have are not that value going away for more money. I think the real value is around 7, 8 million euros. Honestly, the real value without the market inflated for me is around 5, 6, but with this current market, 7, 8. But basically about the wage, they were talking because he earns 3 million from what they are reporting in Florence at Leeds, and it's the same amount David De Gea, one of the highest earner, at Fiorentina, earns in that team. So it's a problem for them because getting a player on loan. So I assume they are implying, the Florence press, of course, that Leeds will loan him out to Fiorentina, but Fiorentina will take the salary then,
wages.
like it was at Everton, for example. Yes, in that case. So they're talking about 3 million euros, but they're also talking about, like you pointed out, Jer, a planning how to pay the salary on multi-years. If he has a nice salary. So I think they are still negotiating, the formula of the transfer. There have also been 2 other names, Daniel Maldini and Cyril Ngong. One plays for Atalanta, but they just signed Raspadori, so they're trying to sell him, to loan him out. Atalanta, Lazio, Fiorentina, and then Ngong plays for Torino. So these are the 2 alternatives to Harrison. But eventually, I think the sign of Buonanotte getting done today, it's a sign that things are progressing well for Harrison in Florence. He was expected actually to travel to Florence on Monday because Moretto reported, and Moretto has good sources, that he was supposed to be in Florence. Other journalists based in Florence says he will arrive, but not on Monday, basically, because something had changed, basically. So I think they're still negotiating, but it will get done eventually. Honestly, it's in the interest of Jack, honestly, to get a fresh start. Away, try to play well and get bought on a permanent by Fiorentina if they stay up, because they are still in the relegation zone, 3 points behind the penultimate place. Yeah, the place ahead, Lecce.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. Paul, he does need a fresh start, doesn't he? And not a fresh start where he goes away and comes back again in 6 months' time. Like he needs a break for his own career as well. He's 29 years of age. I get that he's on a pretty tidy salary, and he could sit on that for the next 2.5 years at Leeds, and then maybe get an MLS move where he started his career at the end of that. But he's gonna want to play some football, and I think the Italian league might actually, funnily enough, I think to Andrea's point, I think the Italian league might actually suit his side of football a bit more, and get him on the side of the pitch that he's probably plays his best football on, away from the left hand side.
Yeah, no, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? Yeah, no. I've said a couple of times now that the chapter on Leeds United and Jack Harrison needs closing, not just for us, but mainly for Jack himself, for his own mental fragility, for his mum, for absolutely everything. I don't wish him any ill will whatsoever at all. No. I think he was instrumental in what we did. He was instrumental in us, the going into the Premier League. He was instrumental in scoring the goal at Brentford that kept us up, all of that kind of stuff. But the last season and a half in particular has been kind of, treacherous is the wrong word, turgid by his standards in terms of what he can actually produce. I mean, I remember watching him in the Premier League having a touch. We all nicknamed him Pillow Feet, because you'd play the ball into him and his first touch was absolutely immaculate. It was brilliant. And I just think that he's just been in a bit of a rut recently over the past probably year and a half. And I think the Italian league is going to suit him. It's going to suit him down to the ground, I think. I think it'll work really well for what his attributes are. And in terms of timing-wise, just go and fill your boots. I mean, you're in Florence, for God's sakes. Just go and enjoy yourself, and just go and get back to it, into the sunlight, all of that kind of stuff. Just go and have a good time, which is what I think he needs at this moment in time, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad place. I love Florence. I've
interesting
right teams and everything. Well, no, but they've flirted with it in the past, like when they were.
There's a lot of tension now.
Yeah, absolutely.
boiling, absolutely boiling. The ultras, they are against the players every week. Basically, it's not even when they win. They're not happy. They are chanting against them, basically. Like, questioning their loyalty, questioning their commitment every week, basically. Even when they win, they are very, very angry right now.
Yeah. Well, they shouldn't be down there. Fiorentina is not a club that should be down near the bottom of the league. I mean, I had interest in them and I supported them from an Italian perspective. And Serie A was on TV in Ireland all the time when I was younger, and it was Rui Costa and Gabriel Batistuta playing for them. And what a side that was! Rui Costa, one of my favorite footballers of all time, just a beautiful footballer.
Then
and
Nintendo
as well. Yeah, Nintendo. Just a wonderful football club at that point, and a very different club to a lot of teams in Italy. So I always had a bit of fondness towards them. But we'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed they can get it done. They don't. Leeds have struggled with selling players under the current ownership and offloading players that are probably surplus to requirement a little bit. If there is players in the mix for Fiorentina, they need to get it done as well. He ain't going anywhere, but looks of things. No. But we're not talking about Mez tonight. The other one to talk about, and this one came out of nowhere yesterday, Paul. We were talking about this a bit yesterday, and it's Jürgen Strand Larsen. And I got a text from a couple of people yesterday saying, "What's the story with Leeds and Strand Larsen?" And I went, "There isn't one. Don't know what you're talking about." I've had a look around. I spent an hour and a half last night going through. I went into the depths of Google searches, and I'm talking like pages that start with a 3. That's how far down I went. And nothing, not a sniff, not a rumor, nothing, not even from uncredible sources. Football Insider weren't even talking about it. That's how far we went. Nothing.
Yep.
All of the talk was that Nottingham Forest were in prime position to sign Strand Larsen. It's a Sean Dyche type of player. It's exactly what he's missing at Nottingham Forest. Blah, blah, blah. And then you sent me a picture, and it was Bet365 or Paddy Power, and the odds on Leeds signing Strand Larsen went from 33-1 to 2-1 overnight.
Yep.
Which is a hell of a drop. Now, that could just been a couple of people putting a few quid on him, but it dropped rapidly. Team Talk got hold of this because, of course, they did.
Yeah.
And they went digging today, and they've come back with him being offered to a ton of clubs.
Everybody.
Absolute ton of clubs. One of them being Leeds United. Now, it sounds crazy. He's going to cost 30s millions-ish. Everything suggests that it's not a signing Leeds are in a position to make. Leeds' rhetoric this winter has been, we're not spending tens of millions on anybody. He would require tens of millions. Some people aren't blown away by his numbers this year, but he has got double digits goals in a Premier League season under his belt for a very poor side last year.
Yeah.
And from someone else I've spoken to today, they say it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Leeds could get this one done. Now, how the structure goes remains to be seen, whether they take him on loan till the end of the season, an obligation at the end of the year after the June 30th PSR deadline. But Wolves appear to be getting ready for the championship, which is an incredible thing to see any side throwing the towel in if they are indeed doing that. But Leeds, Newcastle, West Ham, Nottingham Forest have all been credited with interest in him. Leeds haven't spoken to the club apparently just yet, but the intermediaries are chatting. But it's an interesting one. He does tick the box of what Leeds want up front.
Oh, hugely. I think you can cross Newcastle off the list because Newcastle were in for him in the summer and they ended up going for Whistler instead. Walter Madder or Whistler, whichever one you want to look at it. So I think you can cross Newcastle completely out of the list there. Nottingham Forest would make sense, but he absolutely fits what we need in terms of a big physical striker. He's got the pedigree. One season wonder, whatever you want to call it. 14. Was it 14 last season? I think it was.
14 goals and 4 assists, so 18 GNA in the season, which is not bad. Especially for a side that just survived relegation.
Exactly. So, and this season, don't look too much into this season in terms of his return because
they're a dumpster fire this year.
They are. They're an absolute pit of a team. Unfortunately, they've been flirting with it for ages. Wolves and West Ham have been flirting with it season after season after season after season after season, and it seems like their luck is starting to run out slightly. For me, it would absolutely fit because what it also says to me as well is that I think that you could see if he does come in, that's probably the end of Pirro. I would say it would make sense if that's going to be the case. And there's a lot of talk around championships clubs really wanting to look at him. We've discussed it previously.
Today.
Correct, yeah. He would absolutely tear it up in that Middlesbrough squad. He'd be unbelievable for them, in my opinion. But that's the only way that would even start to happen is if Pirro is going to Middlesbrough, in my opinion, or Pirro is leaving, in my opinion. But we talked about it a little bit before we came on air, and for me, the only way that this works is, again, it's a loan with an obligation to buy. It'll be a loan till the end of the season, and there'll be an agreement, probably a reduced agreement of somewhere between 25 and 30 mil. I would probably say 28 million would probably get it, and that'll be done so we can sign it off, and it doesn't go into this year's figures. It goes into the following year's figures. So that's, for me, that's the creative way to get this done. So that's how I would.
But they don't need the money necessarily this year. They'll need it next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just, you've got to look and think about how is this going to work and how is it going to happen? Because I looked at it and went, well, they're going to want 40 million for him straight away. And then you think, well, hang on a minute, they're probably going to get relegated. So that'll bring the price down by at least another 10 million because they'll have to sell players and get wages off of the books. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. I'm not going to sit here and go, yeah, it's definitely going to happen, but he absolutely fits what we want. I mean, could you imagine him and DCL up front together at the same time?
6 foot and 6'4" standing beside each other. Two big lads.
It'd just be absolutely nutty. But that 33-1 to 2-1 isn't just a load of people placing bets on it. There's more to that story. Something has leaked somewhere, in my opinion, for that to happen. The rumor of it is that he is actually very interested in coming to Leeds because he likes the way that we play and it fits his style. So that's the rumor. I'm not saying that's true, but that's the rumor of where kind of this has probably grown a bit of legs. It's, again, we'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, you look at it in terms of a good January. Buonanotte in, Strand Larsen in, Doki in.
Yeah, it is interesting. Andrea, again, fits the bill, 6'3" in height, gives these a more fit version of what they've already got. It gives them an additional cover for DCL and Lucas Mecha should injuries happen, which they're likely to happen with both of them over the course of this season. Also gives Daniel Farke a chance to rotate that front three a little bit more and rest players and mind DCL's minutes. Also interesting today in the press conference, there was, again, a very creative way of asking Daniel Farke about transfers of confidence of signing anyone else in the window, not names, but anybody else. And he said, well, I'm confident there won't be a huge turnaround in players. We're not going to sign 6 players and let 6 go like we did in the summer, but space for 1, 2, or 3 players. If Buonanotte is 1, we've heard a lot of talk over the last couple of months that Leeds want a striker in this window. Troy Parrott, lots of other names have been mentioned. But again, as Paul said, there's a lot of people who know an awful lot more about this kind of stuff are all saying you never know on this one. There's something else going on. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, first, when I heard about it, first I thought it was like a remake of when Leeds wanted to sign Maradona and then Scuravi, honestly. But then, after that, when you think about the situation of Wolves, clearly he wants to get out of there. There's a work upon the horizon for Norway. They're playing with a front two. They have Haaland and Sorloth, and the first out of the bench is, of course, Jørgen Strand Larsen. He's an established player because he did well in Spain, in Galicia with Celta Vigo, did well last season with Wolves. Wolves refused a 55, I think it was, million offer in the summer from Newcastle. Now, they need to accept that, honestly, to be fair. But eventually, they got Voltemade because of that, and then they reinvested the money that they had, the infinite money glitch that they have now with their ownership, pretty well. But yeah, like now the situation of Wolves has changed. If they want to sell him, nobody else will offer them 50 million euros again. Realistically, it will be around 30, 35 in that range for me. But I think there are other clubs, like you mentioned them, the clubs that might be interested. I'm thinking about also some as well. Yeah, some dominoes, like, for example, today in Italy, they say Juve is interested in taking Mateta from Crystal Palace. If Mateta goes, I think Strand Larsen can be a good fit for Crystal Palace. They play in Europe too. Yeah, Nottingham Forest, they have loaned out Kalimuendo to Eintracht in Germany. There's a place there. We know that they have a lot of money with Madinakis too. There's other clubs like Brighton. I'm even thinking about Chelsea, even thinking about Chelsea. Aston Villa have sold, have loaned out actually Daniel Malen to Roma. So again, they have been linked with Tammy Abraham today. But there's surely clubs at the top end of the table, or even Chelsea. We know that when a player of his caliber is available, they usually put offer in. So it will be very difficult, of course, especially financially. We know that the only formula, like Paul pointed out, will be the loan with option to buy, mandatory option to buy. So obligation to buy, of course, not mandatory option to buy. Yeah, the obligation to buy. Yeah, I think it would be very difficult. And the other thing is, I see him as a main number 9, especially looking also at the financial side. It would be looking at this Wolves salary. It would be the highest earner per Calvert-Lewin, at our club. So in a World Cup year, looking at the season at the end last season, he will come to be the main number 9. So looking at us, we play with a more physical aerial duels, aerial balls, DCL, all the player Mecha, and one behind them, a more versatile one like Okafor. Aronson is playing also in that position. Buonanotte too arriving, signing. So he will need to play, and you might try to play like Calvert-Lewin and Strand Larsen, but then you need to change your system. So it might even be like without wingers then. Like a 3-5-2 in that sense, with Calvert-Lewin behind him, but it would be the versatile one out of them too, But then what happens? Who plays in midfield? In that case, Ampadu, Stack. Then you leave out, for example, one between Aronson and Buonanotte, Longstaff out, Tanaka out. We will have a surplus of players in midfield, So if it happens, of course, it feels like a FIFA signing so far, leading above Strand Larsen. But if it happens, of course, I'll be over the moon. I think it would be very unlikely. There's something, of course, when you see those odds dropping down, in that sense. Yeah, that quickly. I'm skeptical. I'm really skeptical, especially because of the links and the clubs who need a striker above us, But if that happens in football, you never know, If it happens, we'll cheer about that. We'll raise a glass for him,
Yeah. We did play with Mecha and DCL up front before Mecha got injured, and that seemed to work really, really well. So I mean, again, it's more options for Daniel Farke, more flexibility, more again unpredictability that you can add to it. Just to wrap up a few bits before we finish off, the latest on Danilo Doki, we kind of covered it this morning. The Athletic have come involved in this now as well, and they've confirmed that it's a player that Leeds have looked at. They've evaluated it. Their wording is they've evaluated it. They like the player. Leeds want to do it in the summer. Leeds want him as a free transfer, so that's something potentially on the longer finger for Leeds at this point. We've seen Leonard Njenge, who has finally joined Leeds United. He signed a pre-contract agreement. He's a 17-year-old. He's a unit of a 17-year-old. This guy's a big kid. And he will join
as fully developed.
He still hasn't fully developed.
He hasn't fully developed. He's already has a good body type, but look, when he fully developed muscles, he was gonna be a beast.
Yeah, big frame. So he'll join at the end of the season in August when his contract expires. Where it is, he signed a pre-contract agreement, done and dusted. There. The only other news, Charlie Creswell potentially moving to Wolfsburg. There's negotiations ongoing between the two clubs there. Leeds will get 15% of that. So when you add the roughly 3.8 million Leeds are rumored to be getting from that transfer, with the 3.8 million they signed him for, still significantly less than the 21 million pounds or 21 million euros that Toulouse will get from that transfer. We may have pushed the boat on that one a bit too early, but he looks like he's going there. And then Harry Gray was being interviewed today. Daniel Farke spoke about it at length, just about going to Rotherham. It's a good fit as Daniel Farke for him. It goes the chance to be in a more physical team up against fathers of men, people who are going to push him around a little bit, a bit of shithousing and a bit of physicality as well, and bully him a little bit. But a good move, keeps him close to home, Paul. Not a bad one for Harry to get as his first move, but he's going to have to earn it down there. That's not going to be straightforward. They're rock bottom of the league.
No, he will have to. He there's a couple of people on socials that have said that it's a really weird signing. I don't see it as a weird signing at all for Rotherham. I see it and for Harry at the same time. I think for him, it's an absolutely brilliant move in terms of learning that physical aspect of the game. Nobody's questioning his ability in front of goal. Nobody's questioning his technical ability or anything like that. This is now the next little step. You've played with the boys. Let's play with some rough men. Please don't clip that. Please don't. Anybody clip that. I'm going to be really, really annoyed playing with rough men. We don't condone that sort of thing on down here. Let me tell you. Anyway, so it'll be good for him. It's good for his progression. It'll just because he is quite a slight character himself. So hopefully it'll put some stones in his pockets. That's what we want to see. We want to see that next progression for him. I think there's a couple of players that are in the youth squad that Farke does really, really rate and really like. So it's going to be interesting to see their progression over the next couple of years. I mean, I'm really excited to see what Chambers can bring to the team as well. I've seen him play. I saw him play against Middlesbrough, and he's an absolute unit as well. He's not a tiny little guy. He's very, very good. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. It's going to be tough. They're down at the bottom of the league. They've got a lot of work to do. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a little bit testing and trying, but that's all good for his character moving forwards, and it's all good for the pressure playing in the Premier League as well.
Well, yeah, it'll definitely smooth off some of the edges. Andrea, it's far more physical league. He'll have to deal with an awful lot more. He won't get as many chances as he got. Daniel Farke says that this is part of the right development. Prove you can do it at League One. If you can do it at League One, prove you can do it in the Championship, and then prove you can do it in the Premier League. He says he's a player that's been playing with the Leeds United under 21 side, training with the first team, but limited minutes in the first team football. So this makes sense, and keeping him close to home makes sense as well. But as Paul said, it will put stones in his pockets. Absolutely.
It's good to see that this is our strategy towards youth development, because in the past, I remember Lewis Bate, Monteiro never got an appearance in senior football. It was at least for a lot of time without even playing a minute of senior football, even going away, to on loan. Other players, they went on loan eventually, but it was too late for that development. Like Sangriven, I think he was a good player, but now he's playing like in Poland, for example. Joffrey now finally finding his form, but that season, he was always on the bench, and then we sent him out in a different system at Sunderland. When he was on loan at Sunderland, but this move will surely be good for Harry Gray, because it's a team that needs to reach their goal. It's a good place to play football. Not one of the most historical clubs in Yorkshire, but every Yorkshire fan base has that passion towards their club. There's a lot of Leeds fans there, of course, too, but because there's Leeds fans everywhere in Yorkshire. But even the ones supporting Rotherham, it's a good place. It's a club structured, played in the Championship in recent time. So I totally agree with that. If a player has potential, I think there's two now that have potential in the under 21s, but we need to see them, because one thing is youth football and the other thing is senior football, and those two are Harry Gray and some Chambers, of course, and now even Jens when he will sign, at the end of the season. There's not many, unfortunately, apart from Archie Gray, his brother before him. There's not many recent times that have made it out of the academy. We signed some players from other academy, like Strauk the final season, like Greenwood, Gallard, Mateo Joseph from Espanyol, but internally produced not many as it used to be before. It will do well, if it does well, like you said, Joe. If you do well in the League One, probably, because our aim, of course, is stay up and then push for mid-table or even more. We don't know the plans for next season yet. First, we need to stay up, but if the plans are to aim higher, after we stay up, of course, Harry Gray will maybe have his minutes limited again, so it will be beneficial for him to go, for example, for a club who's trying to get into playoffs in the Championship. Good players, good young players. It doesn't make sense if they are 18, 19, even 20. 20 is too late already for me. If they are 17, 18, 19, doing well in the other 21s, don't let them stay in the under 21s. Send them out to experience firsthand senior football, because it will be beneficial for them and then the progression. And then you will have a player with even more experience next summer when he comes back to train with the first team in pre-season.
Yeah, there's a few coming through there to keep an eye on. Sam Alker is obviously one that's with the 17s and 18s at the moment, although they're trying to make sure they can keep hold of him. There's a lot of clubs interested in him. And City, lo and behold, they're interested in a talented Leeds number 10.
Yeah.
Ollie Pickles, who's in with the under-21s at the moment, he's underage at under-21s as well, so he's got a couple of years there before he needs to consider it. They brought in Linu from Manchester City, and they brought in Njenko from Arsenal this week as well. So the under-21s has got some decent young players in there. I keep describing them as a young under-21 squad.
There's the Liverpool player as well.
Marcus.
Yes.
Yeah, he came from Liverpool during the summer and not played as much as the other ones, but yeah, absolutely in there as well. There's some good players there. Murray Mahadi and goal, who I'm a big fan of as well. It's going top on loan as well. So just good. Then you've got Alfie Creswell, who's finding his new position in the centre midfield as a CDM. So there's some good young players there in that squad. They've got a couple of years. They're doing this again where they've got a block of players. They've decided not to go for the previous model, as Andrea said, of buying lads that are 20 years of age, sticking them there for a year and then bringing them up. They've gone back younger again, and there are some very nice young talents in that squad coming through. No Irish lads yet, but get the finger out, lads. There's plenty of Irish lads over here who are looking for a pathway into Leeds. Maybe spread the eyes a bit wider. They have got a scouting network in South America now as well, so you're likely to hear a lot of South American young lads being linked with Leeds as well. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. We'll get more detail on the academy stuff in the next couple of weeks. We'll speak to Jerry McDermott as well. We might try and speak to Andy Cousins again and try and get some detail on that. Outside of that, folks, that will be it for us tonight. You can check this man out, Andrea Russo, over on the Unfiltered podcast on Lockie Leeds. I will link their latest episode on Buonanotte down below if you want to go check that out and get a bit more tactical and in-depth detail on the player and on that signing. And you can check this guy out over on the Leeds Therapy pod, Brooker, and his details are locked down below as well. Outside of that, if you could give us a like on your way out the door or give us a rating and a follow on your audio platforms, that'll be it for us tonight. Massive thanks to Andrea and for Paul for joining me tonight, and I will talk to you tomorrow morning on the Leeds News. Outside that, enjoy the rest of your evening. See you soon. Bye.